Hey everyone. So I just wanted to come on here and explain my little in-game template that I made yesterday, I believe. And apologies if I sound sick. I am. First of all, you've got the little README. It's got instructions on how to build it and run it and whatnot. I've got a to-do, which I actually need to update real quick. So I've got a to-do, but I'll get into this stuff later. Basically, it starts with this little texture struct that I've got, and it's using Raylib for all the more back-end stuff, so like drawing functions, and it's got some simple math functions in it and whatnot. Just some basic utilities to get yourself up and running so that you don't have to do everything yourself. But basically, it's got, it holds a texture 2D, which is like, instead of being loaded from, so in Raylib, there's an image which is loaded off your disk, and then there's a texture which is loaded off the GPU, and that's just what a texture is. And then you've got a scale and rotation and a tint and all this cool stuff. Here I've actually got it so that if it I plan on adding it so that if loading a texture fails, then you can actually replace that texture with an image that's like, I don't know, the Gmod purple and black box or whatever. But for now, I've just got it so that it warns, hey, it failed to load the texture at this path. And then it just deinitializes the texture here. It unloads the texture off the GPU so that you're not taking up all that VRAM. And here we've got a simple drawing function. This uses, get out of the way. This uses draw texture X, which is like let's see, what is the definition for this even? With extended parameters, okay. So you've got the texture, the position, the rotation, the scale, and the tint, which obviously correlates to all the properties that are in the texture struct. Here you've got texture draw rect, which just takes in a source rect. This is used later on in the animation system that I've got up and going. Position and a frame offset, which is once again used in the animation thing. For some reason, I've never seen this happen in any other code base. I have to multiply the actual height of the texture with the total amount of frames that the animation has. Don't know why that is, but if it works, I guess. And then here it's just drawing with a source and destination rect, and there's also an origin, but I'm not really using that. It's basically just the same as this drawing function, but yeah, it takes in a source and destination rect. And of course you've got all your other properties. Yeah. So here we've also got, these are used for, like, if you need to, because if you just do the raw texture width and height, it doesn't actually return it to scale if you're trying to scale it. So I've got one that returns the size of the texture with the scale, and then one that just returns the size. Yeah, so next up is the animation. Here I've got it set up, so I used to use a game framework called phxgh. There was a way in there that you could add an animation by indices, and I thought that was a really cool system, so I tried to implement that here. And you'll notice, I forgot to mention this earlier, but a lot of this code is sort of inspired by karl-zylinski. I apologize if I butchered that name. He's got a really great hot reloading template for Odin, but it just doesn't really match my code style, and I thought it'd be fun to make my own, so I made this instead. But you'll notice a lot of stuff is directly inspired from that, and if you need, I actually do plan on adding hot reloading to mine, since this is just my own personal thing. It's not really meant to be used by anyone else. You can, but yeah. Anyways, his is more like a general purpose template, if you know what I mean. But anyways, so we've got the frames, we've got the index and the current frame, the total amount of frames, the frame length, and the frame timer, all that stuff. So here is just initializing the animation. I'm using the animation switch function, which I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but I have it in place so that if the frames array already exists in the animation, just get rid of it, and then make it with a length of the frames that have been input to the new animation. And then because I was getting some weird errors where I think it would, it wouldn't copy the memory over correctly. So you'd get just these crazy numbers, like 17 trillion or whatever, when you're just trying to have 1 and 2. And that one was really tricky to figure out, but I got it. And then you're just setting the rest of the properties there. Yeah. And of course, we have a deinitialization function, which just deletes the frames array and then gets gets rid of the texture, using the same procedure that we saw earlier. So here it's just a simple, like, you gotta handle errors if you accidentally input like a frames array that has a length of 0. I don't know how you'd accidentally do that, but I guess you can. So it's just making sure that the length of the frames isn't 0, and if the frame length given, like the speed, is 0, then it just defaults to that first frame, because it's just a static image. But basically, you've got a frame timer which ticks down by delta so that it's synchronized across all frame rates, because you've got someone with a 60 hertz monitor and it's based off VSync. So you've got someone with a 60 hertz monitor that'll see it at 60 FPS, and then someone with a 144 hertz monitor that'll see it at 144 FPS. And I want that to be consistent across all those platforms, or all those. You know what I'm trying to say. So if that's less than or equal to 0, it resets the frame timer, and then it increments the current index, and then it sets, and of course it does a check, bounds check, I believe it's called, to see if it's more than or equal to the length of frames so that it can reset to 0, and then it just sets the current frame to the current index. And of course we've got the texture draw function, and I already explained the animation. Yeah, I did. Okay. So this is just returning a rectangle based off the animation, because obviously if you have, I don't have it in here, but say you have a sprite sheet with 4, obviously, like with 4 tiles, obviously you don't want those to all be showing at the same time. That's just how animations work and sprite sheets and whatnot. So, oh crap. So here I'm just returning a rectangle, get the raw texture size. It just divides all the size.x, which is the size of the texture, by the total amount of frames in the animation, which is why we need total frames, because you can't always tell. If you have just an animation with 2 frames, there's not always just going to be 2 frames of animation. There may be like 6 or something. So you have to input the total frames manually for each animation, which is kind of weird at the moment, but I guess I can automate that soon. And then it multiplies the current frame by this said width, and then sets all the rest of the properties. Yeah, and that's the animation system. And then we have entities, which just clashes all this stuff together. Something I did see from another karl-zylinski video, I'm just taking all his ideas, I guess, is rather than having like an enum enumerator, however you want to pronounce it, for something like an entity type, he had a union with structures so that each one could contain relevant data to that entity type, which I thought was a really cool idea and a really good use of unions, so I just yoinked it for this. So say you have a platformer or something, you can do like, I can't type, you can do like a grounded, which is a boolean to tell if the player's on the ground or not. You can store a state in here. Yeah, just anything you want. Anything that's relevant to this little entity type. And here it just updates the entity. So in Odin you can actually switch the type of a union so that you can tell what type it is, which I think is just an absolutely wonderful feature. This is like a tangent for another video, but Odin is such a comfortable language, and I cannot like overstate how grateful I am to Ginger Bill for putting this beautiful product into the world. But anyways, this is just for updating entities, and it updates the animation here too, since the animation update and the animation draw are in separate calls. I don't know why I did it like that, but I don't know. I guess that'll be useful to me somehow, someday. And then you've got the game struct, which just has actually, that's weird. Why is that like that? That was weird. Okay, this has a game struct which just holds all the entities in a dynamic array, which, if you don't know, a dynamic array in Odin basically just means you can append and remove stuff from it, so it doesn't have to be static. I don't actually know how much memory overhead is involved in that, and I'm almost wondering if there's a more like memory efficient way to do something like this. I know there's small arrays, which I read about, which seem really cool, but I haven't messed around with them yet. But anyways, this just initializes the game. This initializes the window, so I've got it passed through here in case you need like, you know, an entity that, in case you need like an entity animation. Well, I'll just pass it no for now. It's not gonna matter. If you need like F32, because you gotta cast it to float for the vector 2. If you want it to show up in the middle of the screen, you can just do that. That's so you've got it initializing the window with the width and the height and the title. The title is actually a C string, which is, I have to pause the recording 1 moment. Alright, sorry about that. I got a call. So basically, this just initializes the window. And I have this very first because if you're loading entities, these contain animations, which contains textures, which you can only load after a window has been initialized. So I've got it here, and of course I've got it to set to vsync, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff here. You can do like resizable, you can do pass-through mode, you can do like, I think there's a transparent mode. There's all kinds of cool things that Raylib has, and I could talk about how cool Raylib is for hours, but that's for a different video. And then it just initializes the game struct, and I've also got a deinitialization, which of course deletes the array of entities. That way all the textures get unloaded and whatnot. Here I've got it deinitializing the window, which just means it's closing it. Here it's just updating. We already saw the entity update function, just going through this list of entities and updating them. And then we've got drawing, which does the same thing except it draws them. And I've actually got a game BG draw color. You'll notice this isn't very well put together per se, but I am working on it. But yeah, that's my little Odin games programming template. I just wanted to show it off because I'm really proud of it, and it's the first real project I've done. So like, there it is. Yeah. Thanks for watching.